right, joining us now, Republican Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. Senator, welcome back to Fox News Sunday. Okay.
I love that greeting, by the way.
Yeah.
Senator, welcome to Fox News Sunday. He just wants to get down to business.
Yeah, exactly.
He wants to get down to business.
No small talk.
Yeah, exactly. No small talk for John. Okay. Let's hear what he's got to say. This is some good stuff.
So your response to the calls by, listen, there are Democrats and Republicans, and you heard Admiral Kirby say that they want that Senate package to get done. The Speaker hasn't moved it in the House. What's your message to both of these bicameral institutions today?
Well, I think my position is pretty clear. I love Israel. I despise Putin. I despise the Communist Party of China. And I despise the Ayatollah in Iran. I don't want America.
First of all, I just want to acknowledge what a inspiring example of mental health John Kennedy is providing here. Because what's he doing? He's sharing his resentments.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, which if you don't share your resentments, if you let them fester inside of you, they're gonna burn you alive. So John Kennedy is a model for all of us, and just he's asked about a regional flare-up of bombings and strikes, and he's talking about his resentments.
Yeah, his
which
feelings.
happens to be the Ayatollah, Russia, and the Communist Party of China for some reason.
He's talking about his love and hate. He's really sharing.
Yeah,
a lot of men are afraid to share their feelings.
They're so afraid. He's a model.
He's a model. Yeah.
If he wasn't so busy being a really important senator, he could be a male influencer.
He could be, yeah, and a public speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
America to be the world's policeman, but I don't want those guys to be the world's policeman either. And with those guys, if you turn the other cheek, you just get it in the neck.
You get it in the neck.
Yeah.
I do not want to get it in the neck personally.
Me neither.
I do not want to get it in the neck. John Kennedy doesn't want to get it in the neck, or does he? I don't know. Let's hear more.
More sheep is not going to solve the wolf problem.
That's okay. Now he's throwing in some farming advice.
Zoological, farming advice. Yeah.
So for anyone out there who's running a ranch or a large property, if you have a wolf problem, I'm sorry, more sheep is not going to solve it for you.
Right.
I don't really get the connection to Israel, Palestine, Iran, but hey, this is why he's a senator and a male influencer.
But if and an animal influencer. But if a sheep turns the other cheek, that sheep is going to get in the neck from a wolf. Yeah.
I don't know, but I expect the Speaker of the House probably next week to put an Israel support bill on the floor of the House. I think it'll be followed by a bill to support Taiwan and the Indo-Pacific. And number three, I think he will put a bill to support Ukraine. Now, I think his bill is going to make the money alone, LOAN. I think it will require Ukraine to pay it back. I think we will seize some Russian assets to pay for it. I think the bill will be limited to military aid, not humanitarian aid. And
don't worry, guys, no humanitarian aid, just military.
That's the Republican opposition when it comes to Ukraine proxy war funding. Even though the majority of their voters don't support it, their way of opposing Biden on this is to say, okay, fine, we'll give you the money, but just if it's for weapons, nothing for humanitarian purposes in Ukraine.
I think there will be some strong encouragement to make Europe, which is vastly more wealthy than Russia, to do a better job of putting its money where its mouth is. And I think the bill will pass. It'll come back to the Senate, and unfortunately, I predict that if it comes back to the Senate, the big issue on those bills will not be Ukraine. The big issue will be Israel, because it is clear that President Biden is being influenced by the Hamas wing of the Democratic Party.
Well, very clear. Thank you for laying it out. Thank you for saying what we've all been wanting to say.
the notorious Hamas wing of the Democratic Party,
Yeah.
by which he means the handful of people who, after 6 months, are finally calling it a genocide. Like Elizabeth Warren, for example, who's voted for every single measure so far to fund Israel. Recently, she finally came out and said, "You know what? Actually, this is probably a genocide."
Right.
Oops.
Oops, I probably shouldn't have voted to fund it.
Yeah, and then of course there was that small number of people in the House on the Democratic side who called for a ceasefire from the start, but that was like a tiny number of people. By the way, all of them were people of color. They couldn't find a single white person in the House to call for a ceasefire up until relatively recently.
Yeah.
So that's what John Kennedy means by the Hamas wing of the Democratic Party.
But also, as Karine Jean-Pierre stated so forcefully, that calls for a ceasefire were repugnant.
That is correct. Yes. While she was, of course, looking down at her paper because she can't look up as she says these words. Yeah. Okay, don't worry, everyone. There's a lot more from Senator Kennedy.
To that point, you've got Senator Sanders there, one of your colleagues, who says in a piece in the Boston Globe this week, he said, not another nickel to Netanyahu. He says, does America want to be on the side of history of standing with people who are child killers and creating starvation? I mean, those are his words. He seems determined to block anything going to Israel.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. And in the past,
I like the way that's what he did at the beginning. Remember, when she greeted him, that's his like. I'm about to say something really serious. Okay.
60 days, we have seen President Biden go wobbly in his support of Israel. And today, the White House has already leaked to the press early this morning that they're not going to participate in an Israeli response to what Iran just did. Let me say it again. More sheep is not going to solve the wolf problem. My advice to the president today, for what it's worth, Mr. President, don't. Stop it. Support Israel. With respect, go to Amazon and buy a spine online.
Ooh, that's a good one.
He nailed him.
Buy a spine online. Yeah.
He nailed him.
Yeah. When do you think he came up with that? You think that was an aide who came up with that, or did he come up with that?
It could have been on the spot. I mean, again, we're talking about a really a deep mind with a multitude of qualities. He's a male influencer. He's sensitive. He's sharing his anger, his
animal
influencer. So who knows whether he did invent that rhyme on the spot? It's
and has a rapper's wit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Peace through weakness never works. Not with these hard men.
What about the issue?
Obvious follow-up there for the Fox News anchor. How hard are these men, sir?
Right.
How hard are they? Yeah. Like, tell us more about these hard men.
Well, he's showing us what a right man, or whatever. I don't want to say soft, but what he's a not hard man, because he's so open about his feelings.
Exactly.
Yeah. If those hard men were more like him, we wouldn't have to have war.
It's so true. He's the picture of sensitivity.
Yeah.
Unlike these hard men in these bad guy countries.
Yeah.
Of Rafah and the fact that there are more than 1 million civilians. Many of them are refugees from other areas within Israel. They were told to evacuate there. They're there now. We know that Hamas uses them as human shields, but the fact is they're there. You know, the U.S. is weighing in on.
Again, there's 1 million people displaced in Rafah at Israel's orders, and yet it's Israel using them. Sorry, it's Hamas using them as human shields. That's the assumption from the anchor here.
Yeah, which is a talking point that never ever gets questioned.
Yeah.
On this, we are cautioning them. We are also indicating we're not going to be supportive of a mission there. Israel says getting to Hamas is, extinguishing an existential threat for them. But what are we to do about the civilian population caught in the middle of this thing?
Move them into the Sinai Peninsula. Now, that would require the consent of Egypt. We send billions of dollars a year in aid to Egypt. Egypt gets billions of dollars of free money from the International Monetary Fund that America controls. We need to sit down.
Well, that was refreshing.
I know.
He just admitted that the U.S. controls the International Monetary Fund, which is basically a tool of U.S. imperialism around the world. It locks countries into austerity measures that are deeply unpopular and forces them to become even more subservient to the local elite and the U.S. run financial system. So that's refreshing from John Kennedy to have the candor to admit that we control the IMF.
Right.
It's supposed to be a multilateral global institution serving everybody, but he's saying we control it. So
Right.
yeah,
It's also refreshing. Again, he's such an open man. It's also refreshing to hear him just own ethnic cleansing and wanting to move them into the Sinai.
Exactly.
If he weren't as in touch with his feelings, he wouldn't say that.
And say we're moving the refugees into Sinai, and we're going to do to Hamas what we did to ISIS and Al Qaeda. Egypt will not.
Well, that wouldn't make sense for Israel to say we're going to do to Hamas what we did to ISIS and Al Qaeda, because when it comes to ISIS and Al Qaeda, Israel helped them in Syria. Israel armed the sectarian insurgents that were fighting the Syrian government, and that included ISIS and Al Qaeda. That was a part of that coalition fighting Syria that Israel armed. And in fact, they were such allies that when ISIS accidentally fired into Israel, ISIS apologized to Israel.
I know. Now that's friendship.
That is.
Remember,
friendship.
Kirby was bragging about how Israel has friends. The United States, England, ISIS.
Yeah.
I like it, but I think Egypt will understand why we're insisting on them doing that. Now, if the refugees don't want to move, that is their choice. But there is a simple answer to this if we just show a little bit of fortitude.
Well, we know Egypt.
So if the refugees don't want to be ethnically cleansed again, that's their choice. But basically, he's saying tough luck, then it's okay to slaughter them. I think that's the implication of what he's saying.
Yeah, they had a chance to do something else. And if they don't do it, sucks for them.
Well, it doesn't suck for us that we were treated to the wisdom of Senator John Kennedy. Wow, what a tour de force.